Someone must think my head is a drum because it's constantly pounding. I decide to open my eyes. Where am I? I look around and see that I'm sitting in my favorite chair in the living room. That doesn't make sense because I don't live here anymore. In my left hand, I have a beer bottle, still half full. I try to sit up and immediately regret it. The loud banging makes my head spin. Maybe I'll just sit here and try to remember why I'm here and in this state. First, let's examine my body. My right arm is bandaged, my left eye is swollen and closed, both my lips are cut, and my nose is also damaged. What the hell? Did I get into a fight? Was I mugged, or both? I take a sip of beer and regret it. My tongue is burning. I must have bitten it too. After the beer, my brain finally starts to clear, and some memories come back to me. Now I remember. My name is John. I was named after my great-great-grandfather. It doesn't matter, but I like to remember the old man. He was a good man. Anyway, I just turned 32. I'm no expert in martial arts and have no special training, but I grew up in rough neighborhoods. If there are no rules, I can stand up for myself. I'm 6 feet tall and weigh about 195 pounds. I'm not a bodybuilder, but I have good abs and chest muscles. I earned those muscles through hard work, not by lifting weights. My wife's name is Samantha. Don't call her Sam, she hates that. She's 30. We're both still young and in good shape. At least I'm usually in shape, just not right now. Samantha is tall, 5 feet 9 inches, and has the body of an erotic fantasy. She's sexy. She runs and does jazzercise. Trust me, the results are worth it. We met in college, but didn't start dating until a couple of years after graduation. I went to college a little later than usual because I served in the Army for 3 years. No, I wasn't a Green Beret, Ranger, or Ranger. I was just a regular guy serving his country. I decided to take advantage of the GI Bill and get an education. I earned a degree in business administration. Samantha majored in sociology. After college, I started working in construction, dreaming of one day starting my own business. Samantha and I met again on a construction site. Our company was building a parking lot for the building where she worked. She and another girl went to have lunch in the picnic area between the buildings. Jack and Bud, who worked for one of the contractors, approached the girls on Friday, probably hoping for a long weekend. Samantha told them that she and Julie weren't interested. These jerks started pestering the girls and even getting a little rough with them. When Samantha and Julie were about to leave, Jack grabbed Samantha by the arm and pulled her toward him. She tried to break free, telling him to let her go and that he was hurting her. I was walking past the picnic area, heard the conversation, and for some reason walked over to them. I don't like men who treat women badly. I mean, I really don't like it. It's just a thing I have. My sister was beaten by her ex-husband and had to run away from him. By the way, her ex was mugged and ended up in the hospital. Jack had gone too far and I remembered my sister and got scared. Jack, why don't you let that lady go? I suggested. Get out of here, John. She's not yours. She's not yours either, Jack. She asked you to let her go. I'm going to teach this little slut a lesson before I let her go, Jack boasted. Stay out of this. You don't need to get involved, John. Jack, listen carefully. Your mouth is writing checks that your body can't cash. I'm going to ask you one more time to let her go and leave. He let go of her arm, turned around, and started hitting me. I responded to the attack, and Jack ended up on his back, holding his nose. He looked broken. I turned to Bud and asked, You want some too? No? Get this piece of trash out of here. I'll call an ambulance. When they left, Samantha came up to me and said, Long time no see, John. You're my slightly tarnished knight in shining armor. I'm glad we met again, especially now. Good to see you, Samantha. How long has it been, 2 years? Come on, ladies, I'll walk you home. We walked to their house. Samantha gave me her number and asked me to call her sometime. I looked at her, nodded, and said I would call. As I started to walk away, I turned around and said, Samantha, when I call, We'll talk about old friends and old times, and then I'll ask you out on a date. Let's get right to it. Would you like to meet tomorrow evening?" She just smiled. If you had called, we would have talked about old friends and old times, and when you asked me out on a date, I would have said yes. Let's get down to business. Yes, I'd love to go out with you tomorrow night. Pick me up at 7 o'clock. I'll be waiting. Samantha turned and walked into the building. The next evening, I invited her to the bar with the best burgers in town. We had a couple of drinks and got to know each other better. After that evening, we were inseparable, except for work, for the next 6 months. It wasn't love at first sight. We had known each other since high school, but it was love at first date. 7 months after we met, we got married. Like all new couples, we went through a period of adjustment. Nothing serious, just little things. I remembered to put the toilet seat down. Samantha learned that I liked my work shirts ironed. Just little things we learned about each other. In addition, like most young couples, we were trying to save money for a house. Children were part of our plans, but first we wanted to have a real home. Because of this, we both worked, and I worked long hours, sometimes even on Saturdays. Most evenings I came home around 7 p.m. Samantha worked at a government social services agency. 2 nights a week she was in school working on her master's degree. She usually got home around 10 o'clock. 2 other nights a week she took jazz dance classes and usually got home around 7:30. We didn't have much time to spend together during the week, so we relied on the weekends. We had been married for just over 3 years when the problems started. At least for me. Samantha decided to stop by a bar after work to socialize with her co-workers on her only free night of the week. It wasn't every week, but 3 times out of 5. At first, she would come home around 7 p.m. She was too tired to do anything but take a shower, iron her clothes for the next day, and go to bed early. Then she started coming home at 9 p.m., then 10 p.m. One day, about 3 months into the new schedule, she didn't come home until almost midnight. "Samantha, don't you think you're overdoing it with socializing?" I complained when she came in. "Because of your school and jazz band, we don't have enough time to be together, and I never get to really spend time with you. Usually when you come home, you're too tired to talk or do anything. Our sex life has been on the decline. Now you're leaving on the only night we can be together. By the way, what the hell were you doing out until midnight?" "I'm my own boss, not yours," she muttered in response. "I can stay out as late as I want." "I can see you've had more than a couple of glasses of wine, as you said. What else are you hiding from me?" "Nothing. I want to sleep and I'm going to bed. We'll talk tomorrow." "You have class tomorrow," I reminded her. "Are you going to skip it and go out again?" I was a little sarcastic. She didn't answer and left the room with all the dignity a drunk person is capable of, stumbling down the hall to our bedroom. "Good night," she called to me. I turned off the light and followed her into the bedroom. She stretched out on our bed, still fully clothed, already dead to the world. Samantha lay there like an angel, still the most beautiful girl in the world, at least in my eyes. I got ready and lay down next to her. When I lay down, she hugged me around the chest and pressed herself against me. She slept, and I hardly slept at all. My thoughts were racing, wondering what the hell was going on. The next morning, no one said anything. I think she felt guilty and ashamed of what she had done the night before. I didn't bring it up. The next move was up to her. Last night, I voiced my concerns quite loudly. After that, things got a little better. Samantha was still having sex, but she cut back to about once every 3 weeks. She would come home around 7:30 p.m. As the new schedule continued, her return time gradually shifted to 10 p.m., and then 11 p.m. became the norm. One evening, when she came home at 11:30 p.m., I talked to her again. "Samantha, what are you doing? After our last conversation, you compromised and didn't go out as often. You also came home at a reasonable time when you did go out. Now you're back to your old ways, coming home later and later. What are you doing? You finish work at 5 o'clock. What could your co-workers possibly be talking about for 5 or 6 hours?" "I just lost track of time today. I'm sorry." What about the other nights when you don't come home until 5 or 6? Did you just lose track of time then, too? Samantha, whatever is going on, what you're doing is destroying our relationship. I think you need to reevaluate your priorities. Samantha looked at me with anger in her eyes. Are you saying I can't go out with my friends anymore? No, Samantha. As you said yourself, I'm not your boss. You're an independent person and you're responsible for your own actions. Remember that actions have consequences and you have to take responsibility for them. You're starting to walk on thin ice when it comes to our marriage. Stop and think about it. She turned and, without saying a word, walked into our bedroom, almost slamming the door behind her. I waited a few minutes and decided that was enough for today. I'd go to bed. The bedroom door was locked. I stood at the door and a burning sensation slowly began to spread through my chest. I took a step back and thought about kicking the door. Instead, I punched the door and, without waiting for a response, turned away, walked over to my chair and collapsed into it. If I was going to sleep, I could have done so there. The next morning, I got up and left the house before Samantha woke up. I didn't want to see her or talk to her at that moment. I was too angry to be around her. When I entered the apartment in the evening, I smelled dinner. Samantha was standing at the stove when I entered the kitchen, turned to me looking embarrassed, and turned back to the stove. I went to the bedroom, took a shower, and got dressed as usual. Returning to the kitchen, I grabbed a beer and sat down at the table. You're back early today, huh? I thought you had jazz class. I was sarcastic again. I didn't go today, she replied. She didn't apologize or explain her behavior last night. I opened the door when you knocked, but you didn't come to bed. Why? I looked at her, still angry about last night. You locked the bedroom door. It was obvious you didn't want me around, so I slept in the chair, I replied with a hint of sadness. She said nothing more and put dinner on the table. I didn't press the issue. Perhaps I was afraid of the consequences. We ate dinner without exchanging more than a dozen words. After dinner, we cleaned up the kitchen, sat down to watch TV, and around 9:30, Samantha got up and went to bed. No good night, no see you tomorrow. It was an evening of almost complete silence between us. Around 10:30, I went to bed too. This time, I didn't close the door. The next morning, I got up before Samantha again. I sat in my car at work and thought about everything that had happened between us. I tried to figure out where we, or I, had gone wrong. What had happened? At the end of the day, I was no closer to an answer or a solution than I had been at the beginning. I drove home and walked into an empty apartment. Samantha wasn't there. There was a message flashing on my phone. It was from Samantha. I'm going out to dinner with Julie. I'll be home around 9:30. I couldn't believe she had left again. After all the shit that had happened over the last week, she was still going on dates. Fuck it, I'll go too. I called my friends Bob and Tom, and we decided to meet at Dooley's. It wasn't the bar we usually went to, but Bob had been flirting with a cute girl who went there a lot, so we went to Dooley's. Dooley's is a grill bar with very good food. 3 times a week, there's live music and dancing. Not a bad place, I thought. I should bring Samantha here. I was just finishing dinner when Bob nudged me and pointed to the dance floor. Samantha had obviously discovered Dooley's, too. She was dancing with some guy. I don't usually get too worried when Samantha dances with other men, but there's dancing, and then there's dancing, if you know what I mean. Samantha leaned forward, and the guy stood behind her. He put his arms around her waist and tried to pull her closer. She looked back at him over her shoulder and shook her head, but with a smile. I thought it was a very sexy smile. Maybe it was innocent, but dancing like that wouldn't have gone unnoticed by my husband. The song ended and Samantha stood up, laughing. The guy put his arms around her shoulders and led her back to the table. There were several women sitting at the table, but he sat down next to her, putting his arm around her. The guy said something that Samantha found very funny. She laughed, leaned over, and kissed him on the cheek. That definitely wouldn't have passed her husband's inspection. Samantha didn't notice that I was sitting across from her across the dance floor. I sat and watched them dance to several songs. Some were fast, but there were slow ones too. They were too close for comfort, if you ask me. Should I go over and say hello? Maybe talk to her and demand that she leave with me? What? Then I made a mistake. I started drinking. Sitting there sipping my fourth double Jack Daniels, I remembered an old country song by Gary Stewart. She's acting lonely, and I'm drinking doubles. That was exactly what was happening. My life had turned into a country song, but I wasn't going to be a loser like in that song. I was going to put an end to this nonsense right now. It wasn't easy to get up. I fought with the alcohol for control of my body. Finally, I got on my feet and made my way across the dance floor to their table. Samantha and that jerk were sitting with their backs to me. When I approached the table, the women sitting across from me fell silent. One of the girls opened her mouth in an O shape, and I heard her whisper, "Oh, shit." Samantha was talking to the girls and noticed their reaction to something behind her. She turned around and saw me as I approached the table. Her eyes widened, and she turned slightly pale. She stood up, took my arm, and tried to pull me away from the group. "John, what are you doing here?" she asked me. I could hear the fear in her voice. I pulled my hand away. "So, this is what you call dinner with Julie?" Funny, I don't remember dancing with some guy who, by the way, isn't your husband during dinner with Julie. The guy stood up and said, "You must be the husband, John. Nice to meet you. My name is—" "Shut up, you idiot. I don't care who you are," I interrupted him. "I'm not here to be polite. I'm here to take my wife home. I'm here to end this before it destroys my marriage. You never answered my question, Samantha. Dinner with Julie is drinking and dancing with another guy? Is that it?" "John, calm down. It's not what you think. Julie and I were going to have dinner and some other girls asked us to join them at Dooley's. Jim came with the other girls. He works in their department. We were just dancing. Yeah, just dancing, but a lot of dancing. I counted at least 8 dances. Some of them were very slow. Those dances gave you a chance to get close. I thought a couple of times that you two were going to go to a room. Now that I'm sober, I have to admit that I overdid it with those words. It wasn't that bad. Have you ever noticed that things said while drunk aren't as witty and profound as you thought they were when you sobered up? "I'm ashamed of you, John. Behave yourself. There's nothing to worry about," Samantha said. "You're ashamed of me? I'm not the one lying to my wife about where I'm going and who I'm with. I'm not the one kissing someone else. I'm not the one who should be ashamed. This is your fault, Samantha. You need to remember that you're married and behave yourself." "I haven't done anything to be ashamed of, John," she said. Now Samantha was angry. I could tell by the way she raised her voice. "Samantha, I'm not going to argue with you. Take your coat and go home. The evening's entertainment is over." "I can't leave now. The girls and Jim came with me. They're not finished yet, and I'm not going to be ordered around like a child. I'll go home when I decide to." "Samantha, do you remember our conversation a few days ago?" "Yes, I remember you lecturing me about my behavior." "I didn't lecture you. I said you need to take responsibility for your actions and that you are responsible for your actions. This is the consequence of your actions tonight. Goodbye, Samantha. Have a nice life." I turned to the table and said, "Ladies, sorry for the interruption. Don't worry, it won't happen again. Samantha may be free soon and can leave with you at any time. Perhaps she no longer has a husband to keep her here. Good night, ladies." "You're not serious, John?" Her eyes filled with anxiety and fear. "I'm as serious as a heart attack, Samantha." "John, wait! John, please!" she shouted after me. Ignoring her, I turned to go back to my table. I barely made it to my chair before my legs gave out. I must have had more to drink than I thought. "Bob, take me to another bar. I can't walk, let alone drive." Bob and Tom helped me to the car. They put me in the passenger seat, and I passed out immediately. I woke up when the guys pulled me out of the car and carried me to my apartment. They sat me in a chair and left. I decided I hadn't contributed enough to Jack Daniel's reserves in this town, so I went to a small saloon on the corner. The next morning, I woke up with a head the size of Texas. Someone had taken off my boots and covered me with a blanket. I sat up and wished I hadn't made such a noise. My head hurt badly. I smelled coffee and went to the kitchen for a cup. There was a note on the coffee pot. It said, "I'm very upset. We need to talk when I get home tonight, Samantha." I knew I wouldn't be able to work today, so I called in sick, for the first time in almost 5 years. Samantha wasn't home, so I went back to bed to sleep some more. Samantha came home around 6 p.m. Apparently, she had skipped her jazzercise class again. Of course, after yesterday's dancing, she didn't need any exercise. She walked into the kitchen and looked at me with a slight smile. I must have looked like a dead body brought in by a cat. "You didn't come home until 3, she said. "I woke up when you fell into the chair. I waited for you to go to bed, and when you didn't come, I came out to see what happened. You were unconscious, so I took off your shoes and covered you with a blanket. Thanks, but I wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't. Why did you get so drunk? You don't usually drink that much." "After I saw you at Dooley's and we talked, the guys drove me here. They didn't want to take me to another bar, so I went to Jake's on the corner. I don't remember much after the first drink at Jake's. I must have passed out." "John, let me explain what happened last night," she began. "Nothing happened. He's just a guy who works with Julie and me." "Nothing happened?" I saw a kiss on the cheek, caressing and flirting, not to mention dancing. "Nothing happened?" "Go to hell!" I shouted. "Go to hell!" "You can't believe I didn't cheat on you, can you?" "Samantha, I don't know what to believe. Our life is falling apart. You act like you don't want to be home with me. 2 nights at school, 2 nights at jazz dance, and your all-nighters once every 2 weeks give me that impression. You come home later and later on those nights. Sometimes you're drunk. Our sex life has gone downhill. You use the weekends to rest up for the next week, and then it starts all over again. What else am I supposed to think?" "John, please, there's nothing going on. I haven't cheated on you," Samantha cried. She wasn't angry. She was sad and a little scared. "You have to believe me. Maybe I was too friendly with Jim, but I didn't mean anything by it." "Too friendly, you say? I sat there and watched him hug you and hold your hands tightly. I sat there and watched him brush your hair away from your face and touch you. Those were the actions of 2 people in love, not just a guy you're friendly with. I sat there watching everything you did with this guy you forgot to tell me about. I know most of your co-workers, but you never mentioned him. How many times have you been out with him? How many other men are you seeing at Dooley's or elsewhere? Jim is the only man who works in our office. I don't date other men. I haven't been with him, and that was only our 2nd time meeting at Dooley's. Well, Jim is lucky. He's the only man among all those women, and he happened to meet you twice. What a coincidence. Well, I don't believe in coincidences." "That's not true, John. He's just a friend and a co-worker." "Bullshit, Samantha. I've been watching you. I sat there watching the 2 of you and wondering what to do. I walked up to you, but I was so angry that I was afraid I'd hit you and kill that bastard. So I left. I don't want to hurt you, and I don't want to go to prison for killing Jim. You asked me why I was drunk. That's why. It was the only way to stop myself from smearing that bastard across the pavement." "Please, John, there's nothing between us. I've never cheated on you." "Maybe for now. But answer me, Samantha. If I had been with you, would you have danced and acted like that with Jim?" Samantha hesitated for a few seconds, then lowered her head. "No, I wouldn't have danced. Maybe I would have danced, but not like that. And I wouldn't have let him hug me and stuff. You wouldn't have liked it. Thanks for at least being honest. Don't you understand? If you knew I wouldn't like it, why did you do it behind my back? I believe you weren't going to sleep with him, but what you did showed disrespect for me, for our marriage, and for yourself. Your lies are also a betrayal. I know that your classes are important for your career. I know that sports are important for your self-esteem, and I know that you need to let off steam to cope with stress. The problem is that you don't want to let off steam and relieve stress with me. You've practically cut me out of your life. No, John, that's not true. I love you. I've fallen into a rut and just haven't thought about excluding you from my life. Please talk to me. Let's figure this out. I'm begging you. Samantha, I love you more than anything in the world. Maybe more than I should, but I can't live like this. I sit here at home while you go out to parties, wondering if you're going to cross the line tonight, if you're going to make out in the back seat of some car or sleep with one of your dance partners. I just can't live like this, and I won't. I'm not strong enough to handle it. Bob will let me stay with him until we sort out the legal stuff. I'll pack my things and leave in a few minutes. John, no, please, stay. Things got out of hand tonight, but I've never cheated on you. I would never cheat on you. I love you. I just wanted to have some fun, that's all. Please don't leave. Now you can have all the fun you want. Maybe you'll find Jim or someone else. I'm leaving. Let me know what you decide about the lawyers and everything else. You can find me at Bob's. I gathered my things, and when I reached the door, I looked back at Samantha. She was sitting on the couch, rocking back and forth and crying. I shouldn't have looked back. I wanted to hug her, hold her close, and tell her everything would be okay, but I wasn't sure it would be. Instead, I left. 4 weeks have passed, and I'm still at Bob's place. I help with the expenses, and he drives me home when I get so drunk that I don't know what city I'm in or what my name is. During the first week after we broke up, Samantha called me 4 or 5 times. I didn't answer and deleted her messages without reading them. Finally, she got the hint and stopped calling. I've been thinking a lot about Samantha and our problems. There were no solutions, but I thought about them. It must be easy to live without her, but there's one small problem. I love her. I love her so much that it hurts when I see her around town. Why do women seem to handle these things better than men? I'm in despair, and she looks perfectly normal. The other day, I saw her laughing with Julie about something. I don't understand. I haven't laughed or even smiled since I left. Am I such a weakling that I can't forget her? Maybe I should have stayed and tried to talk about our problems. We tried talking before, but it didn't work. Did I leave for the right reasons? Am I stuck in my own head and deserve what I'm getting? All good questions, but I don't have any answers. All I have is a few bottles of Jack Daniels. My job wasn't affected, but I can't say I was even close to sober during that period. My supply of Jack was dwindling fast. I hadn't heard from Samantha or spoken to her in about 3.5 weeks. Then fate stepped in to give me a kick in the ass. Bob came home and told me to get the hell out of the house and have some fun. His threat to tie me up and drag me out of the house may have been the deciding factor. He's really mad at me. Grow some balls and stop feeling sorry for yourself, he says. Maybe he's right. At least there'll be more Jack at the bar. There's hardly any left at home. So Bob, Tom, and I went out. We didn't go to Dooley's. There were too many memories there for my first night of freedom. We went to a few bars and ended up at Ernie's. We hit 6 bars, I think, and by the time we got to Ernie's, I didn't feel any pain anymore. I decided I was a cool guy and deserved another drink. Of course, I was drinking double shots, and my mental faculties were probably impaired. In other words, I was slurring my words, seeing double, staggering when I walked, and drunk. Ernie's is a good bar with a grill. It's very similar to Dooley's, but it's on the other side of town. I was sitting at a table near the dance floor when my world came crashing down. Samantha was on the dance floor with Julie and some guy. My heart was beating so fast, I thought it would jump out of my chest. Julie said something to her, and Samantha laughed loudly. Remember my comment about laughter and how she looked normal? She didn't look normal. Samantha was beautiful. I don't believe she ever looked better. Of course, I looked like I had died and come back to life, like one of those zombies in the movies. That was exactly how I wanted Samantha to see me. I decided that if she saw me, I would act calm and casual, so she wouldn't notice how much it hurt. I ordered another double, and Bob said I'd reached my limit. "Are they out of Jack?" I asked. "Hell, I can drink Jim Beam if I have to." "No, you've had more than enough, and I'm not giving you any more," Bob told me. I leaned over to Bob and said, "If you don't give me a drink, I'll hit you over the head. That will make you angry, and we'll get into a big fight. The owner will call the police, we'll get arrested and sent to jail. Do you want to spend the night in jail? Pour me a drink, asshole." At that special moment between two friends, Samantha saw me, stopped dancing, stared at me, and with a slight smile began to make her way across the dance floor toward me. The guy who was dancing with Samantha and Julie pulled her by the arm to keep her from coming to me. She tried to push him away. He pulled her again and tried to make her stay with him. The problem was that the woman he was attacking was my Samantha. Like a bullet, drunk or not, I found myself next to them. "Maybe you should let the lady go," I suggested, like in the old days. I need to come up with a new line. "Who are you? Are you her ex-husband? She dumped you, so get lost." "I'm not her ex, we're still married, asshole," I replied. And then the fight started. The rest is a blur. I remember hitting the guy with my right hand, then my left. I may have kicked him a couple more times. I think I remember something about furniture. The rest is a blur. I woke up in a chair. That's how we ended up here. I groaned as I got up from the chair. I looked around and saw Samantha sitting on the couch, staring at me. There was an expression on her face that I couldn't understand. The corners of her mouth turned up in a smile, and when I sat down next to her, she smiled broadly. "My tarnished knight in shining armor saved me again. You look terrible," she said to me. "You should have seen that guy. What's going on? Why are you here? The last thing I remember is you trying to pull me away from some guy. Did he hurt you?" "No, he didn't have a chance to hurt you seriously. Except for a couple of punches he managed to land, he was just a punching bag for you. You did most of the damage yourself. You threw several chairs and 3 large tables at him. You hit yourself in the face with the last table. By the way, Ernie asked you not to come back to his place. You trashed his apartment." "Get back to my questions, please. Who, what, why, and can I have a drink to sober up?" Samantha handed me a cup of coffee instead. "When Ralph," apparently that was the jerk, "grabbed me and crossed the line, you told him to let me go. He said something about you being my ex, and of course, being a macho man, he refused. I think it was your joke about being my ex that started the fight." "Sorry I attacked your boyfriend. Judging by the look of him, he's okay." I wasn't really sorry. He's not my boyfriend. I just met him today. Ralph works on some committee and is only in town today. He's leaving for Boston tomorrow. Julie, 2 other girls, and their boyfriends decided to go out for dinner and drinks to take their minds off things. Julie asked me to go with them. She said I spend too much time feeling sorry for myself and that I need to get out of the house. It was my first night out since you left. Julie invited Ralph because it would have been rude not to ask him to join us. He probably thought he was my boyfriend. He wasn't badly hurt, but he won't be entering any beauty contests anytime soon. He'll be limping for a while and won't be able to dance. You left your mark on him. Several marks, in fact. "Why are you here?" "You weren't badly hurt, but you were so drunk that I didn't think you could walk, let alone drive. Bob and I brought you here, bandaged your arm and sat you in a chair. We gave you beer so you wouldn't drink any more whiskey. Same question, why are you here? Maybe I should ask why I'm here." "John, the problems between us have been going on for too long. They got out of control. You were right that I wasn't acting like a normal wife. I was angry because I thought you wanted to control my life, and I was under a lot of stress. Now I realize that I created most of that stress myself. I'm sorry. I want to be a good wife, and I want you to be my husband. Please, John, come home. I miss you. I love you. And I don't want to be without you anymore. Please, John. I was thinking the same thing, that I loved her and didn't want to be without her anymore. I said, we have some things to work out. But yes, I want to come home. I love you too, and I can't imagine my life without you. She smiled and cried at the same time. Samantha, can I have some more whiskey? I need a drink to sober up. She just laughed, climbed onto my lap, and kissed the alcohol off my face. It's been 6 months, and things are going pretty well. Samantha finished her classes. She says she's going to take a break for a while. It's taking up too much of her time. She still hangs out with her friends, but only with me. We try to go on dates every couple of weeks to relieve the stress that can build up in marriage and in life. Her friend Julie and her boyfriend sometimes join us at Dooley's. Samantha only dances with me wherever we are. We haven't been back to Ernie's. I don't think they want me there anymore. Samantha has cut back on her jazz dance classes to once a week. She wants to keep going for now, but she'll have to quit soon. We're having a baby in 7 months. Life goes on. My wife and I were typical high school sweethearts who fell in love, went to the same college, and got married. Elizabeth, Lizzie to me and our friends, was a typical cheerleader, and I, Lawrence Johnson, Larry to my friends, was an above-average athlete. Lizzie was a gorgeous redhead, 5 feet 5 inches with a Playboy model figure. Sweet and curvy, I adored her. We were both virgins and gave each other that precious gift in our senior year of high school. Neither of us was going to get a scholarship, but fortunately, both of our families had the financial means to send us to college. I played football and baseball, was 180 centimeters tall, and weighed 90 kilograms in high school. I was a good runner and sometimes filled in as a tight end or wide receiver. On defense, I played safety. In baseball, I was a pitcher and second baseman. Again, my glory days were limited to high school. One thing that sports instilled in me was a love for the gym and staying in shape. Our local gym also offered boxing and martial arts classes. The gym owner, who became my sensei and mentor, believed in a holistic lifestyle that included exercise, diet, and maintaining inner balance. His meditation techniques have helped me in many areas of my life. When we were choosing a college, we discussed it a lot with our family, with each other, and with our friends. My father wanted me to attend his alma mater, and my friends wanted me to leave the state and live somewhere else. Lizzie's friends tried to talk her out of attending our college, saying that she was limiting herself by staying in our relationship. They advised her to go away and live life, meaning 4 years of partying in college. Fortunately, she found new friends in college. Lizzie and I understood that going to different universities could lead to a breakup, as most long-distance relationships don't stand the test of time. So we both decided to attend a state university that was an hour's drive from our hometown. I spent time with friends I had known almost my entire life. Big Billy was exactly what his name suggested. He was a defensive tackle on the football team and ended up getting a full scholarship to a major university in the Southeast. Stan wanted to be called Stan the Man, but most of us thought that was too corny, so he remained Stan. Stan considered himself a ladies' man, as we discovered in the high school locker room. Stan was a man with a capital M. He was gentle, but twice as tall as most of us. Eugene, whom we called Gene, short for genius, earned a full scholarship to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Anyone named Eugene had to be smart, and he really was the smartest guy we knew. He never wanted to be called Eugene, and got angry when someone did. One Friday night at the local McDonald's, some rivals from another school called him Eugene, and Billy and I put a stop to that right away. Billy, Stan, Gene, and I were the main group, but we had a few other friends we hung out with and considered close, but not as close as the four of us. In college, we all went our separate ways, but we stayed in touch. We let each other know when we were coming back for breaks or weekends to see each other. Big Billy could only come after football games, and Gene came as often as he could. Stan usually stayed away from us. Mike Foreman, one of our friends, had the opportunity to buy a family home just 45 minutes away from our houses, so he jumped at the chance. Billy and I took out loans from our parents and became the third owner of the house. We ended up spending most of our time there when we came home. Lizzie loved the place. We each had our own bedroom, and the large living room and study provided enough space for everyone else. There were times when more than 20 people stayed over after a Friday night beer party at the cottage. We don't know who put up the sign or how, but we all thought it was so funny that we left it there. One summer weekend, a sign appeared above the front door that read, "Club for Men Who Hate Women." If you're a fan of the Little Rascals, you'll understand what that means. Even Lizzie liked the sign. A few years passed, and I got a job at my father's company. He was a business expert and was preparing me to take over the company when he retired. Billy was hired as an engineer because his major was perfect for the job. Jeannie became a software specialist. My father persuaded him to start his own company, gave him startup capital, and we became 33% owners of his company. We also got his services for free. My father was a smart businessman. Life was good. Lizzie and I gave our parents 2 grandchildren, whom they doted on, and how they spoiled them. We graduated from college a little over 5 years ago, and Stan decided to move back to our area. He got married, which we never expected. His company offered him a transfer to a branch in our city, and he gladly accepted. We hadn't seen Stan since our junior year of college, and were all looking forward to seeing him again. We kept in touch via email and the occasional text message, so he knew about the Men Who Hate Women clubhouse. I told him we'd give him an honorary membership when he finally moved. Billy, Ginny, and Mike all agreed. The following weekend, Stan moved in, and we all offered to help, but he said not to worry. His company was covering all the moving expenses, and the movers would unload everything. I told him, "Well, if you're too good to let your brothers help, I'm revoking your membership." We both laughed. "At least let me cook a barbecue on Sunday so you and your wife don't have to worry about dinner. Besides, the guys will be here and we can all hang out," I said. Barbecue and beer. How can I refuse?" Stan replied. That Sunday afternoon, we finally met Stan's wife. He had run off with her and hadn't told us much about her, so we were all in the dark. What we didn't expect was that Stan's wife, Cherry, looked like a porn star. Fake hair, fake huge breasts, fake lips. You know, the most beautiful blonde money can buy. Later that evening, Mike came up to me and said, "I know I've seen her before. I just can't remember where. When I remember, I'll let you know." Yeah, I guess my expectations weren't realistic. She never posts anything on social media, so I've never seen any pictures of her. When everyone left, I asked Lizzie, "So, what do you think of Cherry?" "Before we judge, let's get to know her first. Not all blondes with big breasts are dumb." "You're right. Time will tell." Time told. A few years later, our children started high school, and life settled into a pleasant routine. Some would call it a rut. I called it comfort. Lizzie went back to work to put her marketing degree to use. I tried to talk her into working for my father's company, but she wanted to prove herself without the help of family connections. She got a job at an advertising company that Cherry had told her about. Cherry worked at a modeling agency that the advertising company often used. Apparently, she and Cherry often had lunch together and became close friends. I didn't think much of it and thought it was good, since Cherry didn't have many close friends. We still see each other often at the cottage. It was harder for the 4 or 5 of us to get together. Mike traveled a lot, and his wife stayed home when he was away. Billy took care of the kids, their sports, coached them, and was their personal driver. Weekends were tough for him because both of his sons played sports. One weekend, it was just the four of us: Stan, Cherry, Lizzie, and me. Stan and I were out on the boat and were just coming back to the dock when I looked over at the cottage and saw two naked women sunbathing. I wasn't entirely comfortable with my wife lying naked in the open air, even though we were in a secluded spot. I threw Stan a rope and asked him to tie up the boat while I went over to the cottage. "Mind if I ask why you're naked for all to see?" My tone made it clear to Lizzie what mood I was in. "Relax, Larry. Lizzie was just enjoying the sun in her natural state," Cherry said. "I didn't ask you. As far as I know, Lizzie is an adult and can answer her own damn questions." "Well, Elizabeth?" I asked. She knew I was angry because I had addressed her by her full name. Meanwhile, Stan came over to us. "What's going on? What's the problem?" "My wife thinks she can walk around naked and I have to put up with it. Put some clothes on, for God's sake." "Relax, Larry. Nudity is natural. It doesn't hurt anyone," Stan said. I turned and saw him looking at Lizzie before he noticed my gaze. "I don't like you staring at my wife," I said venomously. When I turned back, Lizzie was running up the stairs to the cottage. "Way to go, prude," Cherry said. "You may not think twice about showing everyone your fake breasts," I said to Cherry. "And you may like that she puts all the silicone in her body on display for everyone to see. I don't like it, and I'd appreciate it if you both kept your noses out of my marriage." I went into the cabin and up to our room. Lizzie was sitting on the bed in her robe. "Why did you think I didn't mind you being naked in front of Cherry or Stan?" Cherry made it seem so casual, and in a way it was very liberating. "I don't understand why you're so upset." "What? Next time we're all here, you're going to walk around the cottage naked for everyone to see what only I should see? What's wrong with that?" "If you don't know, then I never knew who you really were. Besides, you didn't even mention that you wanted to do that." "What? Do I need your permission?" I cut her off immediately. "If you're going to start with that feminist nonsense about it being your body and you can do whatever you want with it, then I think we need to reevaluate our relationship." Lizzie gasped when I said that. I walked over to the dresser, grabbed my suitcase, and started packing my clothes for the weekend. "What are you doing?" Liz asked. "I'm done with this weekend and I'm going home." "Do whatever you want. I guess you've been brainwashed into thinking that's normal in a marriage." I gathered my things and grabbed my bag. "Larry, wait! I need to pack my bag." "I'll be in the car. You have 5 minutes." Stan came over to me when he saw my bag and tried to say something, but I gave him a look that told him to shut up. The drive home was completely silent. On Monday morning, I walked into Billy's office and closed the door. "So early on a Monday morning, what do I owe you?" Billy asked with a smirk. Then I told him what had happened at the cottage. "Larry, I wouldn't let Cherry near Sarah. I've heard something. I don't know how true it is." I motioned for him to continue. "I heard that Stan and Cherry are swingers." "Can you call Mike? Put him on speakerphone, please." The phone rang several times. "Hello, this is Mike Richards. How can I help you?" "Mike, you know our number from caller ID. Why so formal?" Billy said. "Just wanted to annoy you, Billy," Mike replied, laughing, and Billy and I laughed too. "Mike, Larry's here with me. I want you to hear what's going on." I told them about the weekend and told them both that Lizzie often had lunch with Cherry. "Mike, I've been hearing rumors, and I just told Larry that the main rumor is that Stan and Cherry are swingers. Have you heard anything?" "Well, I already told you that I saw Cherry before, but I couldn't figure out who she was." Billy and I answered yes at the same time. "I know where I saw her. I'm not proud of it because I know you two never watch porn on the internet," he said sarcastically. "I'll send you the link on my phone. I just found it over the weekend. Don't tell Mary I sent it to you. She thinks I'm an altar boy." We both laughed out loud. Our phones rang at the same time, and I clicked on the link. It was a video called Cherry Gangbang. We watched for about 10 minutes, and yes, it was Cherry from Stan, being entertained by about 10 men. Mike said, "Remember, her online nickname is Roast Beef." Billy and I said, "Ooh," at the same time. It made me sick that a woman of that caliber was a good friend and had influence over my wife. That evening after dinner, I told Lizzie we needed to talk. She looked at me in a way that made me feel unsure that my marriage was as strong as I thought it was. "What do you want to talk about? Do you want to tell me more about what I can and can't do?" "Where did this come from?" I asked Lizzie. "Until recently, we discussed everything. You wouldn't decide to walk around naked in public without discussing it with me." "We weren't in public. We were in the cabin, and only Cherry and Stan were there." Then it suddenly occurred to me. "Was that the first time you were naked in front of them?" She turned away. "So you've been naked in front of them before?" I said much more sharply than I had intended. "Not exactly. I was topless with Cherry in their pool, and Stan came home, so he saw my breasts." "You know they're swingers and that Cherry is a porn star?" "She was a porn star before she met Stan," Lizzie said. "But they're both swingers. What's the difference?" Lizzie just looked at me. "Apparently you don't care, and apparently the rift this creates in our marriage means nothing to you either." "What rift? You're the one creating problems." "The rift you're creating by hiding things from me, like the fact that someone other than your husband has seen you naked. The fact that you know Cherry is a whore and apparently fills your head with crap that will destroy the marriage you once cherished." "She doesn't fill my head with anything. I'm an independent woman, and I make my own decisions." "Like this weekend, when I asked you questions, and you answered me with words from your best friend Cherry? If you don't understand that our marriage is in danger, then we're done. Stan and I are going to have a serious talk in the next few days." I said this as I walked away from Lizzie, who was still staring at me as if she hadn't understood a word. That night I slept in the guest bedroom. I hardly slept because I realized that my world was spinning out of control. Soon I learned that my conversation had hastened a confrontation that had been planned after I had been prepared even more. The next day I came home and Lizzie was cooking dinner. I went upstairs, changed into comfortable clothes, walked through the kitchen, and noticed that the table was set for 4, but not the way she set it when the children were around. She hadn't put out wine glasses or the nice china for the children. "Are we having company? And where are the kids?" "The kids are at my parents' house, and yes, we're having friends over." "Who?" "They'll be here in 15 minutes, you'll see." Lizzie said nothing more. I went to the dining room window and opened it. Then I texted Billy and asked if he could come and listen at the window, that it was urgent and I needed help. He replied, "I'll be there in 5 minutes. No one will know I'm here." 15 minutes later, Stan and Cherry entered our house without knocking. I thought it was a little strange. I just looked at them both without saying a word. Lizzie came in, hugged them both, and said dinner was ready. We went to the dining table and sat down. They started eating, and I just sat there without touching my food. Lizzie finally asked why I wasn't eating. I looked at her, then at Stan and Cherry. "Let's drop the pretense." "What do you want to say? Just say it." "Well," said Cherry, "it seems the Neanderthal doesn't want to enjoy his dinner and observe the rules of good manners. Lizzie and I have become very close. We've discussed many things, and I was shocked when she told me that you were her first and only, that she never experienced anything in college because you always prevented her from experimenting." As far as I remember, Elizabeth and I, Lizzie looked up at me sharply when I called her by her full name, discussed this as a couple. We both, I emphasized, didn't want to risk losing each other because of a long-distance relationship. Let me emphasize again that we both came to this decision, so your insinuations that I somehow manipulated my wife are complete nonsense. The only manipulation I see is a porn star slut trying to come between me and my wife. "Stop calling her names," Stan said. "What's not true here? The fact that you married a porn star or the fact that your wife is a fucking whore?" "Stop it, both of you," Lizzie shouted. I just looked at her. "So what did you come here to ask me in the end?" I told Lizzie about my experiences. She doesn't have anyone to compare me to, and I told her about all the different lovers I've had. I turned to Stan. How does it feel to be one of the 1,000 men who've slept with your wife? I'm sure you feel very special. I'm sure it gives you a nice warm feeling at night. Stan just stared at me. Well, in her stories, Lizzie described you. And yes, you're above average, but you can't compare to the men I've had. And Lizzie wants to try another man. I thought, who better than your friend to give her that experience? Stan interjected. Yes, Larry, she wouldn't go to a stranger. She wants to experience this with someone she cares about and who cares about her so that her experience is a good one. I looked at Lizzie. So you want to cheat on me with this dirty guy? Don't feed me cliches that it's not cheating if you asked for it. The fact that you asked me for this has practically ended our marriage. The fact that you told this bastard our most intimate secrets and confided in him instead of your husband tells me that it's over between us. I stood up from the table and looked at these two scoundrels. You have 2 minutes to get out of my house, or I'll throw you out myself. Lizzie said, You can't do that. I live here and I invited them. Wow, you're sticking up for them. I'm going to a lawyer as soon as I can. Glancing back at the two of them, I added, Actually, she has no right to this property. It's registered to my father's company for tax purposes, so she has no say in the matter. You have 1 minute before I rearrange your face, Stan. They both stood up and headed for the door. Lizzie looked at me with anger in her eyes. I'm not finished, Lizzie. Go upstairs and pack your things. You're going to your parents' house tonight. I'm not going anywhere. This is my house. If you don't calm down, I'll call the police and tell them you're threatening me. Who are they going to believe? Besides, I'm going to Cherry and Stan's for the weekend. It's my body. Billy, did you record that? Yes, I recorded everything on the tape recorder. So if Lizzie calls the police, she'll be in big trouble for making a false report. Lizzie stood there in shock. Billy, who was 6 feet 5 inches tall, looked Lizzie in the eye and said, I'm very disappointed in you, Liz. I never thought you'd become a whore. Lizzie started crying and ran to her room. I called her parents and explained what had happened that evening and that Lizzie needed to stay with you. I also explained that if she went to Stan's house that weekend, it would definitely lead to a divorce. Lizzie's father was very upset with his daughter. 2 weeks later, Mike told us about a big party at the cabin. Billy and Ginny were tired of my gloom and said that either I go with them to be with real friends or they would kidnap me and throw me in the trunk. I reluctantly agreed. My children were at Lizzie's parents' house with her. Her father had threatened her if she even thought about going to Stan and Cherry's, but when the secret came out, she was too ashamed to go. I heard from the kids that Grandpa had to hold Grandma back because she wanted to beat Lizzie. Something about her not raising a whore. So we're at the cabin, and I'm just hanging out. My marriage is falling apart. I'm getting divorced, and I'm at the cabin with people who actually care about me. On Saturday afternoon, I heard a noise outside. I went to the screen door and saw Stan and Cherry pull up. They got out of the car, and Big Billy, Ginny, Mike, and the others walked toward them. Why didn't anyone tell us about the weekend? Stan asked, a little offended. Ginny looked at him and said, Because you don't belong here anymore. What do you mean? I don't belong here. We've been coming here for years. Not anymore, Mike said. Stan started to get angry. Ginny looked at Stan and said, Obviously, you need an explanation. You've lost your membership. You're no longer welcome here, so take your wife. I'm using that word in the broadest sense. And please turn around and leave. Big Billy looked at him. You forgot the code, and you're no longer welcome here. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to see your face again. What code? The code of brothers, you idiot. The code that every decent friend has toward his male friends. That his friends' wives and girlfriends are off limits. You broke the code, and you need to get out. Larry told you I tried to hit on Lizzie? He's lying. I didn't try anything. Big Billy moved his face within an inch of Stan's. No, you let that whore fill Lizzie's head with nonsense about how she needs another man, about how that whore could broaden Lizzie's horizons if she were more like her, a porn star. Stan didn't realize that everyone knew and tried to lie even more. I'll sue Larry if he keeps spreading these lies. We never tried anything like that. One thing's for sure. You obviously haven't talked to Lizzie since dinner. Stan looked at Billy, tilting his head slightly, not understanding what he was saying. I was right outside the dining room window and heard the whole conversation. You two really set Lizzie up and didn't give a damn about what it would do to Larry's marriage. You've been expelled from the fraternity, your membership revoked. Get that roast beef whore out of here. Her mere presence makes me feel like I've caught a venereal disease. Cherry screeched like an owl. You're going to let him talk to me like that? Stan just looked at her. All of Stan's friends turned away from him, and he realized he had lost all his friends. Epilogue. Larry and Lizzie were separated for over a year. She went to a psychologist, and later they learned that Cherry had a master's degree in psychology and knew how to manipulate people. She started acting in porn because she lost her license for misusing her degree. She was attractive, loved sex, and was hired as a warm-up, then started acting in films. They estimate that in the 200-plus films she appeared in, she slept with over 1,000 men. They are still trying to save their marriage, but even knowing everything, it will never be the same. Only time will tell if the children will grow up with their parents or not. Larry didn't approve of it, but Billy contacted Stan's company. He explained what Stan and his wife had tried to do and what the consequences were. Billy told them that if they employed people like that, they would look for another supplier. Later, we learned that Stan was offered a transfer to North Dakota, or he would be fired. He chose the transfer, but Cherry said she couldn't live there and didn't follow him. Eventually, he got the divorce papers, and when he signed them, he realized what he had sacrificed for this woman, and it hit him hard. Mike found more videos of Cherry, recent ones, so they found out she was back in porn. I guess she went back to what she did best.
It began, as these things often do, at a typical gathering of neighbors. You know the scene: disposable cups brimming with cheap wine, all these people pretending to be closer than they were, with some subtle competition to measure whose life had been most successful. When the talk swung to my husband, I didn't put much stock in it. Greg has always been a bit on the clumsy side, his words getting tangled or launching jokes that failed to hit their mark until the joke's moment had long passed. Yet I had always cherished his sense of humor, and he could always make me smile. And I loved him too for his integrity and the tireless work he put in to provide for our home. Greg, my husband, has always been a bit awkward around others. He often misspoke, and he would make jokes nobody understood until the opportune time was gone. Yes, I had rolled my eyes at him more than I'd like to admit. But that night, fueled by some extra Chardonnay and some gentle prompts from the crowd, I joined in. "We love Greg," someone declared, laughing a little. "But you know, he's a bit different." "Oh, you have no idea," I jumped in, without thinking first. "You should see him attempt home repairs. It's like a YouTube tutorial playing in reverse. Everything invariably gets worse." People chuckled, not just the courteous kind of laughter. How funny, but the genuine, heartfelt sort, which swells your ego and makes you feel like you are the most hilarious person in the room. And so I continued. "I swear, sometimes I think. Greg is secretly auditioning for America's funniest home videos, like that time he tried fixing the garbage disposal and ended up flooding the kitchen. Classic Greg." By then, everyone was invested in the narrative. The men slapped their knees. The women nodded with understanding. I glanced over at Greg, standing at the grill, flipping burgers, his expression carefully masked. That should have been my cue to quit, but the laughter felt so good. "And don't even get me started on his sense of direction," I said with a smile. "Greg could get lost in his own driveway. He has an app now, supposed to help him, But he argues with it half the time. No, I know a better way. Spoiler, he doesn't. Another wave of laughter. Even Susan, the woman who had always acted superior since we moved in, was wiping away tears. For the first time, I felt like I was succeeding. Then Greg sat down. The spatula. I first assumed he was simply taking a break, but he came over to us, shoulders tight and his jaw clenched. Everyone went silent, and then he said, "Funny joke, eh?" His voice was calm and measured, yet there was a tone in it I'd never encountered before. You know, what's truly humorous? Living 15 years attempting to bring someone joy, only to find that you are a joke for the group? A profound silence fell. I tried to laugh it off. Oh, come on. But I understood that he was actually gone. I thought of calling him, but then my pride won out. He was overreacting. It was all in jest. People tease their spouses all the time. This is what I told myself later, as I prepared coffee and looked out the window, working to convince myself that I wasn't a villain. But the truth kept gnawing at me. I could still see his face, hear the tremor in his voice when he said, 15 years. I couldn't say what hurt more, that he left or that I didn't realize this was approaching. In the morning, the messages started coming. First came Susan, the persistently inquisitive neighbor. "Hi, just touching base. Something seemed off yesterday. Hope you're doing okay." Then a message from Gigi. "Claire, I feel awful. Want to chat? Maybe have lunch?" Even Susan's husband, Doug, sent a message. "Greg's a great guy, I hope. You two work things out. Let me know if there is anything I can do." I'm certain they all meant well, but each message felt like a small spotlight on my failure. It was even worse when Susan texted again this time, with a picture. It was Greg, sitting alone in a cafe across town. "I saw this and thought of you. Maybe you should consider going to speak with him." I wanted to scream, to weep, or throw my phone through the air, but instead, I just stared at the photograph. Greg looked calm, perhaps humble, like a man who had already made a decision. By lunchtime, I paced around the living room, trying to understand how things had gone so wrong. We weren't the type of couple who published anniversary greetings on Facebook or called each other babe in public, but we had something solid, didn't we? I reflected on the last time we truly had a genuine conversation, not about day-to-day matters such as shopping lists or bills, but just talking. It had been months, maybe even longer, somewhere between the everyday routine and my habit of joking about him with friends. I had ceased to perceive Greg as someone capable of being devastated. And now, it turned out, I had identified his weakness. That day, I tried to call him. He didn't answer, so I texted, "Greg, I'm sorry. Let's talk?" No response. I waited an hour before sending another message. "I'm not doing well. I need to hear from you." Still nothing. By 4 p.m., the coffee pot was empty and my nerves were frayed. I began to search on Google things like what to do when your husband abandons you and how to save your marriage when you have ruined it. I landed on a forum for women in similar situations. Many of them appeared as lost as I was, except for a single comment that captured my attention. "You cannot remedy the situation if they do not want you to, but you can demonstrate that you are willing to attempt." And so I did. First, I went to the coffee shop where Susan had seen him. I had no plan. I just thought that perhaps seeing him in person could help. But when I got there, he was gone. The barista told me he had left about an hour before and had not left a contact number or address. My next stop was his brother's home. Greg's brother, Connor, lived in a neighboring town and had always been the family mediator. If anyone could convince him to reconsider, it was Connor. But Connor didn't know where Greg was either. "What the hell happened, Claire?" he asked, arms crossed against the doorframe. "It was a stupid argument," I replied, my voice wavering. Actually, it wasn't. Even an argument. I was joking, and he became upset. Joking about what? I hesitated. Just Nonsense, just teasing him, like everyone else does. Connor didn't smile. You are not just anyone, Claire. You are his wife. That evening, I sat in our bedroom surrounded by mementos of him. His pillow, his clothing in the closet, the half-empty bottle of cologne on the dresser. Everything felt out of place, as if the house was holding its breath, waiting for him to return. I continued to dwell on the note. He left. The words, "You've made your feelings clear," were stuck in my head like a terrible melody. Had I truly made him feel that way? When at last I drifted off to sleep, I wasn't angry anymore, just frightened. Because deep down, I realized this wasn't a matter that could be resolved with an apology or a sentimental gesture. I had damaged something I didn't understand how to repair. By morning, I understood that I had to be honest. Greg wouldn't come back unless I gave him a reason to. I couldn't simply wait, hoping that he'd change his mind. Therefore, I swallowed my pride and drove to his office. I parked on the street, and it felt endless as I rehearsed what I'd say. But when I went in, his assistant informed me that he would be out all week. That's when I knew. He hadn't simply taken a break from our relationship. He had abandoned his entire life. A few days later, I received another letter. Not an email, not a text message, but a physical letter. Claire, I'm staying with a friend, and I've had a chance to process events. I continually revisit that night, and it is more than just the jokes. I've understood that you stopped viewing me as your partner a while back. I can't say when it occurred, but it is evident. That is the case. I cannot be someone you ridicule to boost your own ego. I deserve better than that. And, to be candid, you do too. I have made the decision to file for divorce. It is not an easy decision, but I believe it's the right one. I am hoping we can settle this in a respectful manner. Take care, Greg. The finality of those words hit me hard. My initial instinct was to fight back, to implore, to resist. But deep down, I understood he was right. I had devoted so much time dwelling on his flaws and spilling my heart to others that I had forgotten what it truly meant to love someone wholeheartedly, flaws and all. That night, I sat in my empty home and allowed myself to experience it all. The regret, the embarrassment, the anguish. I desired to hate him for surrendering, but I could not. Because if I was truthful, I was the one who gave up first. The divorce proceedings were swift and subdued. We didn't have children or a significant amount of property to divide, so there wasn't a lot to dispute. Greg relocated to a modest apartment in a nearby town, and I remained in the house. After a while, the neighbors stopped discussing it. Life carried on as it had before, however, from time to time. I would see Greg at the grocery store or driving past in his vehicle. He invariably appeared, at peace. Not exactly joyful, but serene. And I hated how painful it was to realize that he had found that peace without me. A year has passed, and I am still in the process of self-discovery. I'm seeing a therapist, trying to grasp what went wrong and how I allowed myself to turn into someone who did not value the person, who adored me more than anything. In truth, Greg's departure was a much-needed wake-up call. It caused me to challenge everything: how I perceive myself, how I treat the people I care for, and what I truly seek in a partnership. Do I miss him? Every single day. But I also know that he did the right thing. Because sometimes the only way to salvage yourself is to move on from someone who has already let you go.